with a really good business plan. As a matter of fact, if you want the best kind of financing, the longest term, the lowest interest rates, the best loans like SBA, then you really should be putting together a business plan. And that business plan can make or break your ability to get financing. Don't get me wrong. There's all kinds of money you can get for your business without a business plan. The rates are high, the terms are short, the payments are high. But I mean, the stuff you really want to get, the best kind of loans out there, are going to require a business plan. They're going to want to know that you have a good idea of a lot of different aspects of your business, where your business is going, and how you're going to get there. So what I want to do today is I want to map out exactly how to craft a business plan that makes you lendable, how to craft a winning business plan where it actually makes lenders say yes. You're going to leave this training by knowing each part of the business plan, what should be in there, and you're literally going to be able to craft an overview of your business plan while we're live right now. And then you'll be able to fill in the details, even partially using ChatGPT to help you with the other details. And you'll be able to, even within maybe an hour, have this business plan created. So we got a lot to cover. Let's dive in. So business plan, important for the best kind of financing out there. Other kind of financing doesn't really matter. You're looking for revenue lending, merchant cash advances, credit card stacking. You don't need business plans for that kind of stuff. But it's all short-term bridge funding. What I mean by that is that kind of funding you can get, it's easy to get, it's fast money, it's expensive money. And it might bridge the gap to where you're getting, but it doesn't really get you the long-term funding you want. If you want the best long-term funding, long-term loans and SBA loans, well, they're going to ask for a lot of things. And one of the things they're going to ask for is a business plan. So what should be in that business plan? Well, here is really the top 10 things that you really want to focus on that business plan and make sure are included to be able to have the best chance of actually getting approved. Number 1 of 10 is called an executive summary. Now, the executive summary is basically like a overall snapshot of your business. So it's a clear overview of exactly what your business does, who you serve, why it matters. So we want to think of it like this. This is going to be one of the first things that somebody that looks at this business plan is going to see. And if you've heard that with investors, you have like seconds to make an impression, it's a very true thing. You don't even have 30 seconds. So they're going to hit this and they're going to have a general idea of whether or not they want to invest. And by the way, business plan isn't just for lenders, it's for private investors as well. So this is going to help you, the strategy, raise money from private investors, equity funding, and also get debt funding from some of the best lenders that are out there. And the lenders and the investors are going to look at this executive summary and try to get a pretty good idea of what you're doing. So you're going to want to keep this clean. You're going to want to keep it clear. You're going to want to keep it concise. I don't know about you, but I'm the kind of guy where I won't do business with somebody if I go to the website and I can't figure out what they do. Like if I can't figure out what you do within seconds, like I'm not interested. And that's exactly how investors and lenders are going to look at this. It needs to have a snapshot of exactly what is going on with your business, what you do, who you serve, why it actually matters. And you should also include the amount of funding that you're requesting and a short overview of how you're going to use that money. Okay, it's a frustrating thing from a lender's perspective when they say, how much do you want? And you say, as much as I can get. Well, that's not what a lender wants to hear. They want to hear that you have a plan on what you're going to do. I know how much money I need. I know what I'm going to use it for. And I know the impact that using that money for that purpose will actually do to the business. This is all has to be summarized in this executive summary. It's called a summary for a reason. We don't want this to be long. We want somebody to be able to look at it and say, okay, I get it. I know who they are, what they stand for, what they do, problem they serve, a problem that they're solving, how they're solving it, and a quick overview as well of the money that you're needing and what you're going to use the actual money for. Queen, thank you very much for coming in, and thank you for saying thanks for the great tips. I appreciate that as well. You are from Royalty Business Inc. from Paramount, California. That's awesome. Thanks for coming in and saying hello. So number 2 on the business plan is a company description. Now, this is like your mission, your values, your unique value proposition, right? If you have a one-page plan, as it's called in the Entrepreneur Operating System, or EOS, referred to as a lot of things, this is where you're going to put this, right? We want to understand, like, what are your values? What is your purpose? What is it that makes your company actually unique? And then what we want to do here is we want to highlight, like, what is your competitive advantage? What do you have that is solving the problem better than somebody else in your space? IP, specialized knowledge, are you using special software? So at Credit Suite, we have a combination of software and coaching that helps our clients get business credit financing, right, and improve their fundability. So that's what makes us unique, is that we're one of the only companies out there that offers, improvement of fundability, business credit, and financing in one place. We're the only company that does that. So a lot of companies offer financing or offer business credit, but that's what is our USP. That is what makes us unique. We solve the problem of helping a business owner get money by doing those 3 things, right? That's an example of a USP. It's an example of your company description and what you basically do and why you're different to be able to help solve that problem. It basically shows your business is built to solve that problem that you're out there to solve, and why you are unique, why you stand out, why even if your competitors, why you are better than the competitors at solving that problem. And that's exactly what we want to do in this second section, which is the company description. Now, the next we want to talk about market analysis, right? So what we're looking for here is there a demand for what you have? And anything we can validate to prove the demand, we want to come right here. So it's interesting because I was actually listening to a masterclass from the founder of Liquid Death. And he said, look, if I went to investors and we had no market, no interest, we would have had a problem. So we put a little bit of money into a short production 30-second video. We released the video on social media. I ran ads to it. It got a bunch of engagement, ran ads, got more and more and more engagement. Then we use that engagement to go to investors and get investors to invest. That's a perfect example here of showing that there's a demand for what you have. So what we want to do here is we want to show that there is a demand, and we want to talk about how big the market is, right? So we've seen this on Shark Tank. We're the only one to invest in companies that have big markets. So an interesting story about Yeti is that Yeti coolers, which we're all familiar with, Yeti actually failed many times of getting investments. And the reason was because they honed in on one part of the market. Right? It was like sport. It was like hunting, I think, was the main market that they targeted. And the venture capitalists gave them the advice that the market was too slim. Then they expanded their products out to be products everybody could use. Then they got the investment and became a billion-dollar brand, right? So this is exactly proving that there's a market. They want to see that you have a large market that you could potentially serve. And then you also want to talk about that market. What's going on? Is there industry trends, market size, ideal customer profile? So in this section of a business plan for me, I'm including graphs showing that the amount of businesses in the United States is growing by gigantic proportions. And then I'm showing that there's this massive gap of money they're trying to get and they're not able to get, right? So that's an example of a market analysis. Hey, here's the market. Here's how many new businesses are created every month. Here's how many businesses are in the United States now. Here's the growth and how many more businesses are being formed. And then actually we look at it and say, hey, here's the demand. They're trying to get financing. This percentage is getting declined. It's leaving like $3.4 trillion in money loan business owners are trying to get that can't get. That's an example of a market analysis, right? Trends, market size. We're talking about that the market size is actually growing or the market's actually growing. So this is, and you also want to include your competition here, right? So lenders do not want to hear that you say that you have no competition, right? So if you look at Credit Suite, we're the only company out there that improves fundability, builds business credit, and gets a business owner financing. We are the only one that does those three things. But here's what's interesting is that I don't go in and tell an investor that I have no competition. What I'm going to tell them is I'm going to say, hey, look, here's some of the biggest competitors in the lending space. Here's a couple competitors in the business credit building space. So I'm going to show them who my next nearest closest competitors are, even if they don't directly do what I do, even if I have a USP that makes me unique. I'm still talking about the other businesses that are out there that are similar in competition. And they want to see this. If you go into an investor and tell them there are no competitors, they're going to probably turn you down immediately because everybody has competitors. If they don't do exactly what you do, who are the next closest competitors? So when we're doing this third step of the business plan, we really want to focus on this kind of market analysis. We want to show that how big the market is. We want to show the trends of what's happening in the market. We want basically showing demand. And then we want to show that there's competitors out there, which actually helps us because there's other companies out there that are actually finding that they're doing business in the space, selling products and services as well. And then we rely on our company description and our USP to help us stand out. And that brings me to number 4. How are you going to go get those customers? Sales and marketing strategy. And that's the next thing they want to know. So remember on Shark Tank, Mark Cuban is notorious that if he says, where are you getting your customers? And you say Facebook ads, he said, I'm out. Because he doesn't want you to just have one way of getting customers. He wants you to diversify. So that's what they're really looking for is what is your marketing strategy? What is your sales strategy? Have you implemented it? Is it working? Like what's happening right now? If you're running Facebook ads and Google ads and Bing ads, great. So I'm running ads in these places and here's how much it costs me to acquire a lead. And here's how much it costs me to acquire a customer. The more detail you have here, the better. The more they know, hey, I convert these percentage of people. Here's my ROI on my spend. The better you know your numbers, the easier it's going to be to get an investment from a lender or an investor. And that's what we're doing here in this fourth section is we're showing our marketing strategy. We're showing our sales strategy. We're talking about our plan to attract those customers and any data we have showing that we have attracted those customers. So this outlines our sales funnels, our marketing channels, and our tactics we're using as well. So when I'm meeting with venture capitalists, they really want to see this. How do you get customers? Like ads, right? And then what happens? What does the ecosystem look like? What is the step-by-step when a lead comes in? And this is where we say, well, we advertise on Facebook for a free guide. And then they go to this landing page. They give us their email address, phone number, and name. They get the free guide. We then put them into an email sequence that sends these indoctrination emails. Then they go into a maintenance sequence. Then, one of our sales development reps calls within an hour of them opting in to see if they need help. And we schedule a consultation and we close 20% of our consultations. That's an example of what a sales process looks like. And they want to know that. Like, we got a lead from here. Here's how we get leads. Here's our cost per lead. Here's any data we have on the metrics of our conversion of leads, on the cost to acquire a lead, the cost to acquire a customer. This is the section that they really want to know. And the more of those details we have, the better it's going to be for us. So even if we need to, like Liquid Death, put some money into ads to start getting people out of that into our funnel, it's worth doing, because this is where we actually have real metrics to show them that we actually have a strategy and it's working to be able to get customers and make sales. And by the way, Ed Geo is in the house. Hey, hello, thanks for coming in from Dawn Cleaner LLC from Providence, Rhode Island. Is in the building. Thanks for coming in. He's saying, stay cool. I love that. I need all the cool I can get down here in Florida. I'm telling you, kind of hot down here. Mike South, what's coming up, man? What's up, man? Coming in from St. Louis and saying hello. Appreciate everybody coming in. Give me your company name right here and I'll give you a shout out. So that brings me to number 5. What is your operations plan? So this part of your basically business plan, we want to have the plan for how you're going to build out the infrastructure per se, the operations of the actual business. How is your business going to run day to day? What's your production cycle? What is the process for the back end operations of your customer? So in our world, operations has to do with advising and offering them financing and the software. So our operations plan is that we're going to launch software, and then the software is going to help our customers. And then we've got an advising team that helps. So we've got a financing team that helps. And when a customer comes in, these things happen. And that's what the operations plan ultimately is, right? So this is basically, you're mentioning the tools, you're mentioning the systems, you're mentioning your CRM, your deliverables. This is how we're delivering the actual product, basically, is what we're doing in this stage. We've already talked about the market. We've already talked about how we're going to get those customers in. Then what happens when they come in? Like, what is our process for serving or servicing that customer? That's what happens here in section 5 of this business plan. That brings me to section 6, which is who's going to do this? Who's going to oversee all this stuff? Who's the management team in place, right? And so this is where we're going to highlight leaders, experiences, qualifications. This is where we're going to talk about those people that stand out and why. And again, if you don't have people on your team that are stand out, then this is where you might want to bring in other investors, other partners that have that reputation. And I do that as well. I sit on a lot of boards, because those boards are where my name is being used as credibility for them to be able to go out there and raise capital from other investors. So again, and a lot of times you don't have to pay somebody to do that, right? I don't get paid for some of the positions I have because they're friends. And they've come to me and said, hey, here's the deal. Like, I want to attract investment. I don't have a reputation. You do. Would you mind going on here, sitting on the board and helping us attract investment? I'm like, yeah, absolutely, I will. And I do that, and then it helps them attract investment. So who is your management team? Who is you? Who are you? What is your experience? Who else is going to be there to actually manage? You want to emphasize whatever credibility is out there, and the ability to execute the business plan. That's the whole idea, right? So they don't want to see a business plan on how to launch a taco stand. And I'm a financial services software guy. Like, that doesn't make any sense. Like, I don't have any experience launching taco stands. But if I have a partner on my management team that is an executive chef at wherever, Taco Crazy, well, then that could make sense, right? So this is an example. They're looking to see, we've got a good plan. Who's executing this plan? Do these people have a track history of being able to execute this kind of plan? Maybe I don't have experience running a taco stand, but I have these people as my consultant, and I have a lot of experience of running other successful businesses. So you're going to bridge that gap. They're looking in the section to make sure that you have a team in place that can actually execute this plan. And this is where, again, we want to list advisors. We want to list strategic partners, anybody like that as well. And that brings me to number 7, which is your financial projections. Look, a lot of financial projections, to be honest with you, they're BS. We don't know what's going to happen in 3 to 5 years. But they want to see that you have a methodology to make sure that you have an idea of how something actually can scale, of what something can actually do in 3 to 5 years. So we're going to include 3 to 5 years worth of income projections, cash flows, balance sheets, to show what is the revenue coming in, what are the expenses coming in, what are our balances going to be. They want to see that you have the foresight to know that the company is going to grow. If you execute this plan, what is going to happen financially in the next 3 to 5 years? They're going to want to see that. Now, you're going to want to get as realistic with your assumptions as you possibly can. They don't want to see pie in the sky stuff. You could be called out for that. They could come to you and say, how do you expect to get here by year 3? And you're going to say, well, here's exactly what we're going to do. We're going to spend this much money on you want to show that your plan is actually like logical to be able to get to where you're trying to actually get to. And then you want to explain also how the funding will be used and how it will impact that growth, right? So if I'm coming in, I'm saying, look, I'm looking for 100K, and the 100K is going to go into scaling ads we already know work. Well, then you already know what your ROI is. So if you know what your ROI is, then you should be able to say, if I spend this 100K, here's what I'm going to get out of it. Here's what that ROI will be. And again, that is all logical assumptions. If I execute this plan, here is what I will actually do, but I need the funding to get this done to be able to make that leap, right? And then you want to show break-even points and possible scenarios as well. Best case, worst case scenario. They like it when you've taken into account a lot of different variables. And again, their goal is that you get to profitability as soon as possible, especially if it's coming from an investor. So they want to make sure you get to profitability. And in this financial projections, what we're really doing is we're showing that we can get to profitable as quickly as possible. And then we can also build a really profitable business to give them peace of mind, to get their money back. Never forget that. Investor or lender, all they really care about is your ability to pay them back. And that's what they're looking at here, is your ability to pay them back. So that's what we're going to be covering in section 7 of this business plan. Now, in section 8, we're actually talking about the money that we do need. This is our funding request. We want to be specific about exactly how much money we need. We don't want to go in and say, the most you can give me. We want to have a plan for that money. Here's how much money I need. Here's how I'm going to spend that money. And that's really what lenders and investors are ultimately looking for. So we want to break down that use of funds, marketing, inventory, hiring. What are you spending? What's going to be the return when you're actually getting that money in? That's addressed on the projections, right? But in this section, what we really want to do is talk about the money that you're going to get and the preferred repayment terms. Hey, it's not bad to throw out there the payment terms you want. Will you get them? I don't know. But with investors, you kind of set that. You're the one that sets the terms, and then investors decide to invest or not. So if you're doing this, especially for investors, then that could make the difference between you getting the money or not getting the money. So it really comes down to you actually knowing, this is how much I need. Here's how I'm going to use it. Here is the payment terms I'd like to see. The more specificity you have there, the easier it's going to be. Especially think of it like, if you're putting together financial projections, you're saying, if I got this money, here's how it would be used. It would do these things. And you're taking into account the cost of that money. They want to see that. You've thought through all of those details, and that's what investors are really looking for. And that brings me to number 9, section of 10 on the business plan, and that is risk mitigation. So this is where we want to acknowledge potential risks. Okay, we want to do a SWOT analysis kind of in this part of it, where we want to show, here's the weaknesses we have. Here's the threats that are out there. Here's the things that could maybe make this plan not go as planned. And it's interesting because I find so many businesses don't want to tell lenders this. And it's one of the biggest mistakes you can make because lenders already know it. And they already know there's risk. They already know these things. It's not like you telling them is going to make them say, oh, I don't want anything to do with it. They already know it. What they're looking to see is that you acknowledge the risks, that you know and understand the risks and have a plan to mitigate those risks, right? So this is where we're going to actually say, look, here's threats, here's risks, here's things that can make this plan not go down as it possibly could. And if these things happen, here's how we're going to mitigate those risks. Here's what we're going to do to reduce those risks. So, hey, there's a risk that Facebook ads won't work. So what we're doing is we're doing Facebook ads, Google ads, and Bing ads. That way we can diversify our spending. As an example, right? So this is where we're saying there's threat here. There's a risk. And here's how we're mitigating this risk. And lenders love that because you're telling them stuff that you're being really honest and transparent. Hey, this could go bad. Here's how it could go bad. Already thought about it. And here's how I would mitigate that risk. So that's very important to lenders as well. And that brings me to section 10, which is basically supporting documents. What do you have documentation-wise to back up what you put in the plan? So I talked about earlier when we talk about market and how I put some graphs and things in there. Well, this is kind of where we're putting any of those kind of things too. Licenses, permits that we have, contracts, credit reports for the business, for you individually, if they think that helps. Everything needs to be professional, organized. And any supporting documents that you have is where we want to put these. Anything that you think will support that business plan, we want to have here in the very end. Okay, so then that way they actually have support for what you've actually said in the business plan. And that's it. That is the 10 sections of a business plan that you really want to go over to really look good for lenders and get them to want to say yes. So how do we craft that winning business plan? Number one, that executive summary, the overall summary of what we're doing. Number two, company description. Like, what does our company do? What is our core values? What is our purpose? What problem do we solve? Number three, market analysis. How big is the market? Okay, who is in the market? Is it growing? This is where we show there's a demand for what we actually have. Then number four, we're showing our marketing and sales strategy. How are we going to get to that demand? There's people out there that want what we have. How are we going to get to them? What is our marketing strategy? Then how do we sell them? What does our sales funnel look like? What does our sales process look like? Number five, operations plan. Now we sold them, great, they're customers. How are we going to serve those customers? This is our operations plan, or the operations plan section of our business plan. And this brings me to number six. Who's going to do it? Who's going to oversee all this? Who's the management team? And why is this team have the credentials they need, or what credentials does this team have to be able to execute that actual plan? And that brings me to number seven, which is our financial projections, 3 to 5 years of what we think is going to happen, including what's going to happen when that money is given to us. And then that brings me to number eight. What money are we asking for? What's our funding request? How much money? What are we going to use that money for? Again, we talk about that in projections. And most importantly, what is that money going to do? Like, what are we looking for? What kind of terms are we looking for? And by this point in the business plan, we've already covered the kind of ROI we can get. Number nine, what are the risks that they should really be aware of, and how are you mitigating those risks? And number 10, what supporting documents do you have for all of this? So there you have it. That is how you make lenders say yes. That is the 10 different parts of putting together a winning business plan. If we can help you along the way with getting capital for your business, let us know. It's kind of what we do here at Credit Suite. All you have to do is go to creditsuite.com/get-funding to go ahead and get qualified for funding. As a matter of fact, if you want a free copy of your Dun & Bradstreet Business Credit Report and score, and you want us to go over that with you, we'll definitely do that. You can get that at creditsuite.com/consult.